So this is the 7 days book challenge, day 6. I'm still reading Mud, Sweat and Tears by Grylls. And yesterday I got this takes from the chapters. Being aware of the things required to get where you want to get. So we need to be aware of the things required to get where we want to get going or something. And preparing the right way to be prepared for the real deal. Yeah. And today, in chapter 61, I highlighted through everything that would happen during the final test, we of course would know if it was all simulation, yet it was all simulation, yet we had learned over the month of continuation training to treat everything we did as real. That was the key to preparing troops for combat. Train hard, fight easy, make the training as real as possible, and when it then happens for real, there are fewer surprises. And one thing that SAS have become very good at over the years is making the training simulation feel utterly real. Trust me. So here we are told that it's kind of the final tests and everything is about to happen as if you're sitting and playing a game. It's not real, but still they are trained to think that the whole process is real. It's, as he says it, that it was all simulation. We of course would know it was all simulation. But yet they had learned over the months of continuation training to treat everything they did as real. So yeah, it's the real word now, as I just repeated from the last chapters. Yeah, so they have to treat it as real as possible. Yeah. And they made them feel that it was real. So there was no doubt about that this was the real thing. And in chapter 62, I highlighted Matt and I both been fast asleep, hats pulled off over our eyes, snoozing like babies in a pram. If we had been caught, we would have been binned instantly. I challenge you, though, to find any SAS soldier who didn't have at least one such narrow escape at some point during his journey through selection. No one is perfect. So we hear now that it's possible to make mistakes. Yeah, we all are not perfect. And here Matt and Bear um, had been fast asleep, um, and they just didn't get caught. But if they did, if they had been caught, as he said, we would have been binned instantly. So it was just out instantly. But no one is perfect, right? So, yeah. And I highlighted, the plan went like clockwork. It seemed that all the training had paid off. We stormed the building, shot the terrorists, and extracted the hostage. So here the plan is about to, it's going as the process. It's going like clockwork. And here he feels that all the training has paid off. So it was all important. It was all for a cause. And it all went as it should be. So at last, in this chapter 62, it's said, but the final day and night of hell would be make or break. So this is not the last thing in the drill. Yeah. Chapter 63, I highlighted. The day before our final exercise had begun, the DS had made the briefing crystal clear. Don't give them anything, or they will exploit you. Be smart, stay focused despite the pain and fatigue. Slip up for a second and you fail. And no one is your friend until you see me walk in wearing a white cross on my sleeve. Only then is the exercise over. So this is the final exercise about to begin. And the DS says that they have to stay focused despite the pain and fatigue. This is highly hard situations that they are going to be in, and they have to be smart and stay focused despite the pain and fatigue. And they shouldn't slip for even 1 second because they would fail. And no one is their friend until the DS comes wearing a white cross on his sleeve. Yeah. And then they know the exercise is over. Okay. And then I have highlighted, I would not give in to these bastards. I sang hymns in my head and prayed continually, keep me strong. So here Bear is in the situation where he is taken as a what's it called? Captive, as a captive, and he just won't give anything to these, as he called them, bastards. Yeah, and he sang hymns in his head and prayed continually to keep himself being in the state of not giving up, keeping himself strong. Yeah. And I also highlighted the real lesson of this was twofold: control your mind and don't get caught. So he always thinks in lessons, he always has this learning mentality, which is so important to each one of us. Yeah, to get to the point where we really can get over anything is the learning mentality. Yeah, it is a lesson I have never forgotten. It is probably why I have over the years become very good at getting out of all sorts of scrapes. So that about controlling the mind and not being caught is important for him. And actually there's something said by the DS. He says, remember, at the end of the day, these guys are on your side. They are British. They aren't a real enemy. If they were, that's been when things would get messy. So remember, do not get captured. So this is emphasized really, really good. This is so important. Don't get captured. Yeah. And this has helped Bear in many situations afterwards. Rule 1: SAS soldiers have to be able to remain sharp and focused under duress. Matt turned, looked at me, smiled, and walked out. I never saw him again. So here they have finally finished the exercise, and all these lessons are coming. And his friend Matt, he didn't pass, so he just went his way. Yeah. And it was always about remaining the sharp and focus under duress. Yeah. And I highlighted in chapter 64, and from now on, for the rest of your life, remember this: you are part of the SAS family. You've earned that, and it is the finest family in the world. But what makes our work here extraordinary is that everyone here goes that little bit extra. When everyone else gives up, we give more. That is what sets us apart. It is a speech I have never forgotten, Bear says. So that thing about giving the extra makes the ordinary extraordinary. And I also have heard Bear talk about it in one of his speeches. So this is very important for him, and he has never forgot it. Yeah. Along the way, I had come to learn that it was never about the beret. It was about what it stood for: camaraderie, sweat, skill, humility, endurance, and character. So here, Bear has reached the point where he finally can get his SAS Sandy Beret, and he's thinking it's not about this beret, but it is about what's underneath it, and what's underneath it was the camaraderie, the sweat, the skills, the humility, the endurance, and the character. So all the things that have accumulated in himself from getting this beret, and the understanding of what it stood for. Yeah. Since, and I have highlighted, since I did selection all those years ago, not much has really changed. Yeah, and he says that it's always been about the physicality, the mentality, being robust, self-confident, self-discipline, and being able to work alone, able to assimilate information and new skills. So that was the character, really, and that has, as he says, been molded into his psyche. And he says, they are the same qualities I still value today. So here that all these values, all these character strengths has become molded into his psyche. It's become a part of him. And that's how a champion is made, a soldier is made into, very hardened and just this character traits that's important for one to survive every thinkable situation. Yeah. And I highlighted, but what do I remember and value most? For me, it is the camaraderie and the friendships. And of course, Trucker, who is still one of my best friends on the planet. So that of most value was the camaraderie and the friendships, and of course the friendship he had with Trucker, and they are such good friends that he thinks who is still one of my best friends on the planet. So yeah. Oh. Yeah. And I highlighted, but above all, I felt a quiet pride that for the rest of my days I can look myself in the mirror and know that once upon a time I was good enough. Good enough to call myself a member of the SAS. Some things don't have a price tag. So this makes us remember the last chapters where he told us about the price he had to pay, the price of the sweat and work and all the fatigue and all he had to pay. And now it's finally paid off. He can look himself in the mirror and know that he was good enough. Good enough to call himself a member of the SAS. Yeah, so this is very important. That you really can feel this really paid off. Really, yeah. And in chapter 65, I highlighted, it was a perfect work hard, play hard lifestyle. We were fit, doing a job we both loved, yet when we were not with our squadron, we were having a great time in a university town. 2 years passed like this, and as a young man, I was living my dream. I mean, find me a young man who isn't going to love being trained in how to blow stuff up, climb cliffs, skydive at night, and practice evasive high speed driving. So, this is here the point where he's actually living this, as he called it, work hard, play hard lifestyle. And he thinks to himself, this is just what I wanted. This is where I want to be. And he thinks that any other young man would envy him for being trained in blowing stuff up, climb cliffs, skydive at night, and practice this evasive high-speed driving. Yeah, so... there is something else I highlighted. The qualities needed for life in the SAS. One friend asked him, and he would say that it is the ability that one has to be self-motivated and resilient, to be calm, yet has the ability to smile when it's grim, to be unflappable, able to react fast and have improvise, adapt, and overcome mentality. And these all, he says, has helped him in his big expeditions like Everest, to filming like To Escape to the Legion, Man vs. Wild, and Worst Case Scenario. So this is finally where we get to know how he accumulated all his character, all his mentality. For being in programs like Man vs. Wild and so on, even climbed the Everest. So we really have to be resilient and self-motivated. React fast and have the mentality of improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's always about to overcome. Yeah. Thanks, that's all from me. I hope you got inspired. If you got inspired, you can comment, you can subscribe. Thanks.